Okay, in today's class, we are going to discuss histogram processing. There are several applications of histogram. One of the application where histogram is used is for image enhancement, and particularly the contrast enhancement that we'll see in today's class. So now let us first define the histogram. So to define the histogram, let us consider a few notations. So whenever we are talking about histogram here in this class, L will refer the total number of gray labels that we have in the image, right? So for example, if your image is, let's say, having the gray labels from 0 to 255, that means the value of L will be there, 256, right? So total 256 different gray labels. And RK here will denote the normalized intensity, which will be between 0 and 1. So normally our intensity varies from let's say in usual case from 0 to 255, but if that is the case, then we will normalize it and we'll talk about the normalized intensity. That means we will divide every pixel by the maximum value, so that all the intensities lie between 0 and 1. Okay, so RK will be here the normalized intensity, and this it has the range 0 and between 0 and 1. And NK will denote the number of pixels that have RK gray level. Okay, so let's say the value of RK is 0.5. So you have to count how many pixels in your image have the value, the gray value 0.5, and that will tell you the value of NK. And capital N will denote the total number of pixels that are there in the image. This basically means it is a sum of all the NKs. Right? So if you sum all the NKs, then you will get capital N. And using this notation, we'll in this particular class, we'll talk about how to define histogram, and then we'll also later talk about how to compute the normalized histogram. Okay. So let us first define what we mean by histogram formally. We have referred this term earlier also several times, and loosely we have defined also this, but let us formally define the histogram here with the help of the notation that we discussed. So let's say for the given image, we want to define the histogram H. So this basically means for an image, the value of H that it will hold for RK, this will be equal to N. So you can say that H is a kind of function, and how are we defining the value of H for a given image? So for H, its value at RK will be equal to NK, which basically mean that this is going to give you the value of the number of pixels that have intensity or that have the gray level RK. Because on the right side, what you have NK. You are saying that for RK, the value is coming out, the value for the histogram is coming out as NK. So this is, in a very simple term, you can say that this relationship is telling you that how many pixels in your image have RK value. So for different RKs, you have to just find out the value of NK, and that will define your function H. Okay. So in a discrete term, we'll talk about discrete and continuous cases one by one. First, we'll talk about the continuous case and then discrete case. But in this case, discrete case, the histogram simply mean that if you, on your x-axis you have RK, which basically denotes the possible gray labels. In our case, the possible gray labels are between 0 and 1, let's say, where you can say that you have some possible gray labels in between 0 and 1. So for this particular gray label, how many number of pixels you have, if you just plot that here, that will give you that will define the H for that particular RK. And similarly for all these RKs that you are denoting on the x-axis, if you just find out what is the count for or what are the number of pixels that have that particular RK, so then this will give you the histogram. Okay? In discrete case. And in continuous case, obviously here you have these discrete bars, but in the case of continuous histogram, you will have a continuous function. But for our images, we are going to have a discrete histogram. Now, as I just explained in the previous class, so we are talking about here the values which are ranging between 0 and 1. So RK will it will range here between 0 and 1. And if you just divide the number of pixels that you have for RK by the total number of pixels, you will get a new histogram. So this is the histogram where, I mean, if you just consider this example, in this particular histogram, we are saying that, let's say this is a gray level 0.1, and 0.1 has number of pixels as 250, or maybe, sorry, maybe let's say a small number, 25. So if you just divide this 25 by the total number of pixels that you have in your image, then you will actually get the normalized value for every gray value, gray level. And if you plot your RK versus the normalized values that you are getting for all RKs, then you will get the normalized histogram. So when you are talking about the normalized histogram, you can say that if you sum all the values of nk by n, for all possible k's, then this is going to total sum as 1. Okay, so one thing is confirm that when you are getting normalized histogram from this, if you sum all the values that you have here, this is going to total sum to 1. And that is why we can say that whatever normalized histogram you are going to get, that is a kind of probability distribution. Because in probability distribution, if you sum all the possible values, the totals would be 1. And you see the same thing here. So we can treat this normalized histogram as the probability distribution. Okay. We are going to see 4 basic types of histograms. So we will have images which are dark, and we'll have a particular type of histogram for dark images. Similarly, for the light images, we'll have a particular kind of histogram. For the low contrast and for the high contrast images also, we'll have a different kind of histogram. So based on these 4 types of images, we are going to have 4 different types of histograms, and we'll let us see their examples here one by one. So this is the example of a histogram where you have a dark image. So how does your histogram appear for the dark image? So when you are saying a dark image, that means the intensities or the gray levels that your image is using is on the lower side. Right? That is why you are saying it's a dark image. You have dark intensities in the image. So if you count the number of, if you see the number of pixels that are the types of pixels that you have in your image, obviously you will have the pixels which have this on the lower side, the intensity that they have. The intensity will be on the lower side. So that is why if you see the histogram of any dark image, you will find that it will be actually clustered towards the lower side of your gray range. Right? So if this is the histogram, so you can assume that the gray levels are ranging here from 0 to some maximum, and at a particular RK, you are having the number of intensities, number of pixels which are having this particular intensity. So, so for the dark images, you will see that the pixels will only occupy the intensities where the RK is low. That means you have the low gray level. Similarly, for the histogram of light images, in this case, pixels will be brighter. So that means they will, in your image, you will have the pixels, more number of pixels which are having intensity or the gray value, which is high gray value. So in this case, the cluster, the histogram will actually cluster towards the higher side of your histogram or higher side of the range that you have on your x-axis here. Similarly, for the histograms where the contrast is low, when we say the low contrast, this basically means whatever objects you have, you are not able to differentiate between them. The foreground and the background does not have any difference. So that exactly you see here. If you assume that this your objective is to see these objects that are here, you are not able to differentiate them from the background, and the reason is that the background and the foreground have the similar kind of intensities. So in this case, when the contrast is low, you will find that the histogram will be accumulated at one place. And this place can be anywhere. This accumulation can happen here, or it can happen here, or anywhere, but all of them will be accumulated at one place. This means with foreground and background, they all will have similar kind of intensities. When we say, and this happens when we say the low contrast. And when we say the image has high contrast, this means there is too much difference between the objects and the foreground. The objects and the background, or the foreground and the background. So in this case, you will find that the pixels, your pixels, some of the pixels will have very high intensity or very high gray value, and some of the pixels will have, very low value, or more precisely, we should say that more number of pixels here will have high values, and similarly, maybe you can say a roughly equal proportion of the pixels they will have the low gray value. So your histogram will get accumulated on the lower side and on the higher side. You may have some pixels which are lying in between also, but most of the pixels will lie here and here, because whatever you have as foreground, that has very high intensity, and whatever you have as background, that will have very low intensity. So the difference between the foreground and background will be very high. So the accumulation will happen on this side and on this side, and you might have a few pixels which are in between, but majority of the pixels will lie in these two extremes. These are a few more examples. So in this example, you have, so you can say in some sense this is a kind of a good image. So you have the pixel distribution in the entire range. In this example, you see there's either there is a black, you have black portion or the white portion. So that is why you see two peaks in your histogram. Some of the pixels which are black, they are represented here. The other one which are white are represented here. And there are some other pixels which are having intermediate intensities. They are appearing here. And the similar is the case here. You have some black pixels and some white pixels. White pixels are accumulated here, and the black pixels are accumulated here. And there are a few pixels, if you can see, they are also lying in between. Okay. In this image also you have white and black pixels, so black are here. And this white is also not, if you see, this is not completely white, so that is why you see a lot of pixels are here, but here many of the pixels are even lying in this range also. And similar is the case here. You see a kind of mixed histogram. Okay. So intuitively, if you see from all these examples, which image is a good image or which image is a bad image, that can be actually decided based on the type of histogram it has. So if you see that histogram has, for example, in these cases, histogram is accumulated at one place, or you have some clusters in the histogram, then from that you can get the information that the image is not a good image. So what image is considered a good image? If you see here in this example, we see that the image neither have very high contrast or low contrast, or light image or dark image. It's like a kind of balanced image. And what kind of histogram you see for this image? In this image, you see that the histogram has like a kind of equal or the uniform distribution across the pixels. It's not that all the pixels have either very dark values or very light values, or there are some clusters. You see, in this image, so there are some pixels which are having low values, there are some pixels which are having high values, there are some good number of pixels which are having the intermediate values. So this histogram is kind of have a uniform distribution across the gray levels. So intuitively, it is seen that for a good image, the histogram should be uniformly distributed across the ranges, across the gray levels that you have. If you have let's say a gray level between 0 to 255, then your entire histogram should be uniformly distributed between these ranges, for these gray values. It should not happen that a lot of pixels are accumulated at 0, or a lot of pixels are accumulated at 255, or there is accumulation at somewhere in between. If it is a uniform distribution, then it is seen intuitively that that corresponds to a good image. Okay, so we are basically going to see in detail how to, for a given image or for a given histogram, how to make the histogram a uniform histogram so that the corresponding image becomes a good image. Okay, and before that, let us just briefly see there's some applications we have for the histograms. And we mostly use histogram because it's very simple to calculate the histogram, and with the help of histogram, we can get good amount of global information of the image. As we have seen in all these examples, if only the histogram is shown to us, we can tell a lot of details about the nature of the image. So since it provides, it is simple to calculate and it provides good amount of global information about the image, we have a lot of applications for this. One of the applications where the histogram is used is image enhancement, and we are going to see the example for this today. And it is also used in image compression. It's also used in image segmentation, and we can also use histogram for computing the optimal threshold in various applications. And we see this image in the application of the image segmentation. With the help of histogram, actually we compute an optimum threshold which can segment the foreground and the background, and with the help of that we perform the segmentation. Okay, so now let us see the application of histogram in improving the image quality and particularly the contrast of the image. And this process of using histogram to improve the contrast of the image, it is called histogram equalization. Okay, so let us see what we exactly mean by histogram equalization. And the objective of histogram equalization is to get a uniform histogram for the image from the given histogram. So we will have an input image, we will have its corresponding histogram. In the process of histogram equalization, our objective will be to get a uniform histogram, which is the idea is that if we can get the uniform histogram, and then we can get back the corresponding image for that histogram, then that image will be a good quality image, or the image will have good contrast. Okay. So as I just said, so this the application of histogram utilization is to obtain uniform histogram. So now let us consider that in this discussion, R represents the gray levels of the image to be enhanced. That means R is the remember, I mean, in this whole discussion there are two histograms. We are going to have two histograms, one which is the input histogram, and another which is going to be the uniform histogram, which you are going to get after histogram equalization. So let us say the R represents the gray level image, gray levels in the image which is to be enhanced. That means the R is for the input image. Okay, and the range for R is, we have normalized already the image. So the range for R is between 0 and 1. Ideally in your image, I mean, normally in practical cases, your image will have the gray levels from 0 to 255, but here we have normalized them and considering them between 0 and 1. So every gray level has been, let's say, divided by 255, the maximum value, and they all have been scaled down to 0 and 1. So if the value of R is 0, then that basically that will represent a black pixel. If the value of R is 1, that will represent a white pixel. Okay. Now here our idea is to find out a transformation function this, and this is very important to note down, because this whole discussion is going to be focused on this. To get the uniform histogram, we have to, our idea is to find out this transformation function S equal to TR, where if we supply R as input, that means if we supply our gray levels from the input image, it should give a new gray level in the output image, or it should give a new gray level for the uniform histogram. Okay, so this S equal to TR is going to map input gray levels to output gray levels. Now in this mapping basically mean that's, let's say in your input image you had a gray level R equal to 0.4, let's say. Okay. One more thing, let us just try to understand that from these examples. Suppose you have to, let's say in this example where you have a low contrast, let's say you have to improve the histogram, or other way, let's say we have to make this histogram uniform. What we have to do? It's obvious that we have to spread it out. It is clustered at one place. We have to do something so that this get spread out in the entire range. So this basically means that if, let's say, you had a pixel here which has, let's say, a grayscale R, this value need to be displayed somewhere else, right? Whatever pixels you have, let's say for the R here, they need to be mapped to a new location so that whatever you have, whatever you are getting here as a cluster becomes a dispersed kind of distribution, right? So that means for every R, you have to find out a new mapping. So maybe in the example that we're considering, if you are saying that R equal to 0.4, so maybe in the transformed histogram or the new histogram, the uniform histogram that we are going to get, there this R may become, which is 0.4 now, may become, let's say, 0.6. Okay, so please remember this one. The process of making the histogram uniform is basically whatever input histogram has been given to you. In that, if the intensities or the gray levels or your pixels are clustered at a particular range, you have to basically disperse them. Okay, so that your histogram becomes uniform, and in that process, you have to map all the gray levels to a new gray level. And here, your input gray level is going to be R, and this is going to be mapped to a new gray level. So in that example, you can say that if your gray level was 0.4, and then it is mapped to 0. Let's say it is mapped to S, and the value is 0.6. So in simple term, you can say that all the pixels which had 0.4 as intensity or gray level, all of them now become the pixel for this intensity. Okay, so if, let's say, you had 100 pixels which were having 0.4 intensity, so all of them now will become, all of them will be assigned now a new intensity which is 0.6. And this process of transformation is exactly the same. You have to just find out a transformation function which maps your input gray levels to a new gray level so that the distribution becomes uniform. In terms of the function, you can see here that on x-axis you have R, and you have this transformation function R given. So this this TR will take your R input gray level, and then it will tell what is the mapping, what is the corresponding S that you have to choose so that the histogram becomes uniform histogram. Okay. Now there are some characteristics that this TR should satisfy, and these characteristics or these constraints are required so that our image gives us the same information which it was giving earlier. It should not, I mean, because of this transformation, the overall appearance or the overall information that we were getting from the image, that should not change. Okay, so to maintain that, there are some constraints that we need to fulfill here, that this TR need to basically fulfill. So the first requirement is that this TR function, it should be monotonically increasing function. This means if, let's say, you are talking about two R1 and R2, and if you find that this R1 is greater than R2, then whatever you have for TR1, that the transformed value, this value should be either greater than or equal to TR2. Okay. What basically this ensures, if you just analyze this, what it ensures that when you are doing the transformation, your gray level is either remaining the same or it is increasing. So if your gray level has, let's say, value 0.4, then it will in the output image, it will remain either 0.4 or its value will be increased. Okay. So the first requirement is that it should be monotonically increasing function. And second, this TR should also lie in the range 0 and 1. Why is this required? Because your intensities are between 0 and 1. In your image, if your input image has intensities between 0 and 1, then your output intensity should also be between 0 and 1. Since we have normalized the intensities of the input image and they are all lying between 0 and 1, so we can say that this TR should also lie between 0 and 1. That means whatever output you are getting here, the maximum output from this TR should be 1. You should not get anything beyond 1 because that doesn't exist. So as I said that TR is going to be a monotonically increasing function. So it is possible that multiple values of R maps to a single R. Okay, this basically means maybe 0.4 also maps to 0.6 and 0.5 also maps to 0.6, right? So that can happen. So that is why we are saying that this is a monotonically increasing function. It is not strictly increasing function. Right? Please remember the difference. So if you just remove this equal from here, then it becomes a strictly increasing function. In that case, you will have one-to-one mapping. But in this particular case, since this is just monotonically increasing function, so we may have multiple R's mapping to the same S. Okay. Now, however, here objective is to find out this transformation function TR. Okay, and what is the characteristic or what is the basic requirement of this TR? This TR should give you the uniform histogram. Right? It should give uniform histogram. So we can say that, let us say this PRR is the probability distribution, or you can say maybe in terms of histogram, let's say PRR gives you the normalized histogram for the input image. Okay, and it is a probability distribution as we discussed at the beginning, because if you sum all the values of PR, this is going to give 1. So if you have a probability distribution for the input image, PRR, and let's say after doing this transformation, you have output image for which you have the probability distribution as PSS, then to maintain the properties of the image, we need to ensure that in a small range, let's say DR, to have a particular pixel, a particular intensity, if let's say we have to calculate that, then that value will be PRDR, PR R multiplied by R. If you just multiply PRR to DR, this will give the probability of finding out a pixel which has intensity R in a small area, let's say, or in a small range DR. Sorry. So this need to be actually same in the output also. So if R is mapped to S, then this should be equal to PS S DS. When we are doing the transformation, this need to be ensured. So if this is ensured, then from this we can obtain this equation by just taking this ds to other side. So this becomes PSS equal to PRR into dr by ds. Okay. Please remember this equation. We are going to use this in our subsequent discussion. Okay. So now let us try to find out a function TR which satisfies this criteria. What criteria? This criteria that we have discussed here. Okay. Or in another way, we can say that we are now trying to find out a TR which gives us the uniform distribution, right? Uniform histogram. So now let us consider the CDF, cumulative density function, and try to see if this can be used as TR. I'm just telling you the outcome. We are going to see that this cumulative density function, if for any given distribution, if we have its a CDF, that can serve as a good TR for getting the equalized histogram. Okay, so you remember this ultimate result, and we are going to prove that here now. So we are going to consider CDF, cumulative density function, and we are going to show that this CDF can be a very good choice for TR. That means this CDF actually satisfies all the requirements that we need to have for a TR. Okay. So what do we mean by CDF? Cumulative density function. So if you have a probability density function, let's say like this, then, and let's say this is your x-axis as R. So in the CDF, at a particular R, the output is going to be or the corresponding value of the probability is going to be the sum of all these previous values that you had. So for a particular R, you have to find out the cumulative value, which is from, let's say, you can say from 0 to that particular R. Okay. So in the CDF, as you see in this equation, the CDF is nothing but if you are computing a value for PR, this is integration from 0 to R for that probability, for that probability distribution function. Okay, so corresponding to this R, the value that you are going to get here is going to be the sum of all these values, or if it is a continuous case, you can say that the area under this curve from 0 to this R. And that's what this equation is saying. When you are saying 0 to R, PR, W, dW, this is nothing but the area under this curve from 0 to R. Similarly, if you, let's say, you are trying to find out, this is your PDF and then right side one is the CDF, and you want to find out what is the value in the CDF you are going to have for this R, and let's say that R is here. So then you have to again compute all this complete area that is falling under this curve from 0 to this new R. Right? Let us say first one was R1, this is your R2. So in case of R1, you have computed the area under curve from this 0 to R1, and for 0 to R2, you are computing the area under curve from this point to this point. Okay. So this equation defines the TR, the cumulative density function, and then TR in terms of that. So it says that let us assume that S is equal to TR is equal to this function. That means this TR is nothing but this cumulative density function. Okay. So now let us see if we are able to satisfy those properties that we discussed earlier. If we are choosing this CDF as TR, what were the properties? The very fundamental property was that this TR should give us the uniform distribution. So let us see if our distribution is going to be uniform if we are using this cumulative density function as our TR. So let us say, so to show that we have to use this equation. In this equation, what is the requirement? We should have ds by dr value. So from here, let us try to compute that value. So we'll compute the ds by dr, and then we'll just take the reciprocal of that, we'll get the dr by ds. So what is the value of ds by dr here? To get that value, you can just differentiate it. So when you are differentiating this one to get ds by dr, you can say ds by dr is nothing but d by dr of tr, which is nothing but d by dr of this, which is nothing but the TR. We are choosing this as TR. So now this is the integration, you are doing the differentiation, then you can say that this overall will become PR, right? You are differentiating the integration, you have integration here and you have differentiation here. If you just see the combined effect, then this is nothing but the PR of R. Okay? So now let us try to keep this value in this equation. So on the left side you have PSS here is equal to PRR, and then dr by ds you need. So what is the value of dr by ds here? It is 1 by PRR, because dr by ds is just the reciprocal of this value. So you keep that value here, and when you multiply, you see that you get output as 1. When you are getting output as 1, what basically this says? It is telling you that PSS is 1, right? That means if you choose any value of S here, your output is going to be 1. That means for every value you are going to get the same output, and if you are getting the same output, then you can say that your histogram is like uniformly distributed histogram. Okay. Is that point clear to everybody? So when we are saying that this PSS is equal to 1, this is actually telling you that the distribution is uniform, because irrespective of S that you have here, the output is going to be 1. So that means in between 0 and 1, the range in which your S lies, for all the possible values, this your output is 1 in this probability distribution. So that is why we can say that if we choose the CDF as our transformation function, then it is satisfying our requirement. It is actually giving us the uniform distribution. So this shows that the CDF can be a good choice for the transformation function TR. There can be other functions also, but this is one of the functions that we can use for computing our histogram to equalize histogram is this CDF. Okay, we can see one example here, and other requirements also you can see here that they are satisfied. So if you go back and see the first requirement here was that it should be monotonically increasing function. So CDF is always going to be increasing function, because if R1 is going to be greater than R2, let's say in the CDF, this is your, let's say, PDF, and let's say this is your CDF, then if this is your R1, or let's say R2, and this is your R1, and R1, if R1 is going to be, if R1 is more than R2, then in case of R2, you are only computing this area. In case of R1, you are computing this entire area. And if R1 is going to be more than R2, then the area for R1 is going to be more than R2, right? As you see here. So the CDF is a monotonically increasing function. So that requirement is also satisfied when we use CDF. Now let us just see this example quickly. So let's say we have our probability distribution for the input image PR distributed like this. What basically says that when your intensities are, you are on the lower side of your intensities, you have a lot of pixels having that intensity. But as you move to higher intensities, the number of pixels are decreasing. So if this is your histogram, very clearly we can say that this is not a very good histogram, because this is not uniformly distributed. It is like a kind of a skewed histogram. On the lower side of the intensity, you have many pixels, but when you see the intensities which are high, there your number of pixels is very less. Okay, so it's not a good histogram, so we need to, let us say, equalize it. And this is a PR. This is a probability distribution, because if you just compute the area, you see that this is going to give you 1. So now let us use this, let us compute the CDF. You can use the CDF definition. Is saying S equal to TR equal to 0 to R minus 2 DW minus 2W plus 2 DW, right? This is just, we have changed the variable as we see here in this definition. And then we are integrating it from 0 to R. And when you integrate it from, if you just do the integration and then compute the value from 0 to R, definite integration for between 0 to R, you get this value, which basically gives this equation, R square minus 2R plus S equal to 0, if you take all these variables on one side. So from this you can, if it's a quadratic equation, you can solve here for, there are two variables here, R and S. For them you can just, you can simplify the equation where one variable is on one side and the other variables on the other side. So from that equation you can compute the value of R, which is coming out to be this. And once you get the R, you can compute it to dr by ds. Here, this is the R, simplified R, and then you can compute the dr by ds here. We are excluding that plus thing, because if you are using that plus value, it will not be. Your intensities will be more than 1. So that's what we don't want. That is why we have only considered from this plus minus. We have only considered minus. Not the one where we will have plus 1. And from this equation, you can get dr by ds, which is this. And from this, by using this dr by ds in this equation, we see that we get PS equal to 1. Here you have PS equal to PR dr by ds. What is the dr by ds you got? Dr by ds you got this from here. And similarly, this PRR you can compute from the, by using the value of R, you can calculate PRR, which is coming out to be this. So when you substitute the value of PR and dr by ds here, you get PS is equal to 1, because this value will get cancelled out by this value, right, when you are multiplying these two. So it gives PS equal to 1. So in this example also we see that when we are using CDF as transformation function, the output probability distribution PS that we get, it is a uniform probability distribution. Okay. All right. So this was all about the histogram equalization in continuous case. In the next class, we will see the examples. We'll first talk about the histogram equalization in discrete domain, and then we'll see few examples. Okay. So let me briefly tell you about a few more things. So here we were talking about histogram equalization, where the requirement was that the function should be monotonically increasing function. Okay, so when we are mapping from R to S, this transformation function, if it is monotonically increasing function, that is enough for us. If R is being mapped to S, I'm sorry, this is S here, this side, and this is R here. So if we are saying S equal to TR, so this is a monotonically increasing function, and if we can have this function as monotonically increasing function, that was enough. But in some cases, we'll also see, this we are going to see. We are going to discuss histogram specification. There's another application of the histogram for the image enhancement, where we will be also computing the inverse of the inverse using this function, this transformation function. So when we are computing the inverse, in this particular case, we see that inverse cannot be computed in a deterministic way, because here a particular R may R may map to 1S. If our function is only monotonically increasing function, then in that case 2R may have might have been mapped to same S. So if we are computing the inverse, we cannot get the inverse. So to get the inverse, there is another requirement, and the requirement is that it should be the function, this transformation function TR should be a strictly increasing function. If that is the case, then for any given, if for any two R, R1 and R2, let's say R1 is greater than R2, TR1 will be always more than TR2, or other we can say that for every R there will be a unique mapping. So if the mapping is unique, then if you're computing the inverse can be completely defined. So earlier case, our objective was to have just monotonically increasing function. But if, let's say, in any application, we want to also compute the inverse from this transformation function, then this should be monotonically, strictly increasing function. And if it is a strictly increasing function, you will see that this will provide us one-to-one mapping. It can provide us one-to-one mapping. And this is actually the requirement in case of histogram matching or histogram specification. We'll see more details about this later. But if we are talking about this transformation function TR for histogram matching or for histogram specification, then in that case, this need to be a strictly increasing function, which will actually guarantee that we have inverse existing. So more precisely, we can say that we need to have one-to-one onto function. Okay, or in other way, the bijective function. And when it is guaranteed that we have one-to-one and onto a bijective function, then we can say with confidence that the inverse will also exist. Okay. So in continuous case, whatever we said is enough. But when we are talking about discrete case, when we are talking about a discrete histogram, this is actually only possible if the input image has all the gray levels. This the inverse mapping is only possible when input image has all the gray levels. This is the practical requirement, you can say, when we are talking about images which are the discrete functions. In the continuous function, whatever we have discussed was enough. But if we are talking about the inverse transformation for discrete images or discrete functions or for the images, then in this case we need to have in the input image we need to have all the gray levels. right? That means you should not have any gray level where the image doesn't have any pixel. That means you have the value in your histogram as 0. Okay, fine. So let us stop with this. In the next class, we'll again continue our discussion on this, and we'll see examples of histogram equalization, and also, if the time permits, histogram specification. Thank you.